Okay, I've got some proposed new functionality for gizmos and setting fields as required or optional. So this is the current configuration that you've seen in the past couple of years with gizmo configuration, where you have input fields and you have this field optional setting, and then you have two values as optional and required. But we have instances where we're building dashboard applications and we have no way to make a field's requirement dependent on another field, at least not easily, with some really complex configurations which really are not that flexible, especially just for something simple like an input string. So with that in mind, I want to change this field, and I'm going to change it here, so that we now have, first of all, for changing the name, I'm proposing from field optional to field required. I think that just makes more sense. I mean, the field should be optional by default. And then within that, you have the field is required never, field is required always, or the field is required conditionally, where you can then add JavaScript or reference to a gizmo value JavaScript that contains the script to determine whether the field is valid or not. So what that allows us to do is fun stuff like this. I'm going to cancel this and I'm going to go to required when. And this is a dashboard that has a series of gizmos. And so I have a gizmo here that is an input string that is never required. So this corresponds to the old is optional. I have a field here that is always required. So it's always going to be required. And then I have a couple of fields that are actually optional based on different conditions. So this one is optional based on a value set in the never field at ABC, in which case it's going to return true saying this is optional. I've got a second field that is actually dependent on this previous field being set to a value of ABC. All right, and it could be anything you could dream up in JavaScript and go here. And if you wanted to, you can actually take this code and you can replace it by a reference to another gizmo. So I could have get gvalue JavaScript $, and if I were to publish this gizmo, so I'm going to cancel this because I don't want to make that change right now, but if I were to publish this, this would have maybe common JavaScript that can be used by multiple gizmos. All right, so that's the general functionality or change within the configuration of the tool. So finally, what we're going to have is a application here. So I'm going to go to this application I'm running, and it's configured so that now I have a field that's not required. I have a field that is required. So testing, and as soon as I do that, every requirement is met on this dashboard. So my submit button is activated because the application is valid. But if I come back and I say this value is ABC, now this field that is required when this field is equal to ABC is now required. And I can put something in here and say test, and my submit is good. Or if I put an ABC here, now my phone number is required. And the only caveat here is that as you change the value, you have to tab from the field, right? So when you're coming in first, you have to either tab to get the requirement to turn on, or you have to hit enter. All right, and that's just the nature of gizmos and the way they work. So I'm looking for feedback to see if this is a good change. If so, I will get it checked in and deployed in the next build. Let me know what you think. Thanks.